Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sandhills Stock Show. This is the 2021 version of your Hereford Show. At this time, I'd like to welcome an outstanding junior Hereford member, Mr. Jarrett Worrell. For such a young man, he's accomplished a lot in this breed, and at this time, he is going to play the national anthem for us. Thank you, Jarrett. All right, if you'll bow your heads, we'll give it to the Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessing of kids and cows. God, we thank you for the blessing to be here today. God, thank you for this great nation, state, and area that we live in. God, we just ask for blessings on everybody in the ring today. Be with them as they travel home, and God, just guide them and lead them as they work on their projects all year long. God, we thank you for 4-H and FFA and all the leaders that help with that, the parents, all the volunteers. God, thank you for the show. Thank you for this country. And God, we do everything in your name. Amen.
ready for Class 1 in both our steer and heifer show. This is the steers coming in. These steers are your lightweight steers weighing from 1,050 to 1,134. And there will be 4 steers out of this class go to the sale. In your heifer show, you'll be in class number 1. These will be your late spring Hereford heifers. They were calved May 1st of 2020 and later.
May heifer calves to start off the female show, and both in terms of quality I really appreciate. And there's some subtle differences, yes, but kind of have to really study the females to both aligned in terms of balance, and you like those things about them. The female, I'm a young, gonna used to win the class, young man's female. When you really get to studying her, I think there's just a bit more to her. There's more rib shape, more body. But her biggest advantage is how she handles herself when she gets on the go. She's looser in her spine, how she hits the ground, she's more correct. And so just that overall combination of this. Openness to her forehead, but she's not quite as nice in terms of how she holds her spine. Because of that, she's a bit more restricted or just a bit more hesitant in her movement. I want to say, as a young man, I asked him, I said, whose idea was it to get up early this morning? And he said, my mom's. So he's pretty honest, and I appreciate that about him. And you can go ahead and tell her.
In class number 1 of your heifer show, first place goes to entry number 226, HFR Classic Image 2010-20, shown by Friendly Brogan. And in second is entry number 56, W4 108E Lady Dom, H148, shown by Cadence Hawk from Whitney, Texas. Now in your heifer show, this will be class number 2. These will be your spring heifer calves from March 1st to April 30th.
pretty easy class winner in this particular class, and I think you study that female in terms of muscle, in terms of structure, how she puts all those parts and pieces together, and she wins the class pretty handily for me. You know, and then there's a decision in second and third, and that's what I studied on for a fair bit. There's some differences in the cattle in terms of where they are condition-wise, and I guess that's the one thing I'd say over the female that stands in second that might have a little bit of an advantage over our class winners, that she is a bit leaner, but she's also one that gives up just too much mass and a muscle shape to advance into the top spot. But when you look at these two in second and third, I see the second place female to be just as wide structured. When you read her in terms of base width, she's just as wide as the female that stands behind her. And I think she's just going to come with time. Where I like her better is how she hooks up behind her shoulder in her spine, and just a little more nice designed her shoulders. She's flatter shoulders and still excellent in terms of pin width. You know, if you want to say the female in second is bolder footed, she's stouter made. I'm not going to argue that third place dark female has those features, but you see her, she stands here, she's just a little softer in her top, right behind her shoulder, she breaks just a little bit, and you combine that with more roundness to her lower shoulder, and so it throws her balance off. I don't think she ties that front end together as nicely as our class winner, and that's why I've made a decision finally. But I appreciate that she's a big, stout-footed female, hits the ground really nice, she's excellent in terms of length, beautiful from a profile standpoint. Female that comes in here in fourth, she's one that has some shape and some power to her in terms of muscularity, but with that added muscularity, she's a little bit coarser-headed, coarser over the top of her head. She's not as nice in terms of the structure. She wants to get a bit more upright in her top, doesn't hit the ground with just that soft, easy stride. We like her probably better when she stops than when she was on the go. Congratulations, that was a good fun class to sort through.
From Seguin, and in fourth is entry number 560, SCGLB Diana 015AGT, shown by Riley Hollis from Clyde, Texas. Now in the ring will be class number 3. These will be your junior heifer calves calved in January through February of 2020. In the Hereford Heifer Show in class number 3, Again, young, if you're going to show, we need you at the ring immediately.
With the growing pains of a bigger show and splitting the ring up, we've decided that we're going to keep a top end over here, the ones that we pulled in the middle that have moved up, And unfortunately, I mean, we're going to need to dismiss the rest of you so we can work through this top end. Nothing to take away from these young people here on the ringside. We gave you a good look. We just feel like there's either some structure issues or some body depth issues or just some things that we just didn't really love about your animal. Trust me, from end to end, these are very high quality animals, so don't get discouraged that you're being dismissed. But the top end here, we just need to evaluate them a little bit closer. But let's give these young people that are leaving the ring a round of applause, please. Thank you. Young man's female that wins your class. Young man, let's lead her up a step. Let's just have him pull her up a step instead of, there you go. She has a decided balance advantage, even the smaller frame female of the pair. When you look at her in terms of just sheer depth from the base of her chest floor all the way back into her flank, she's a deeper bodied female. I think she's much more attractive up to her front 1/3. And just those advantages allow her to win the class for me, added look and balance. Young lady's female, one perhaps has a bit more lower shape. And when you look at her from the side profile, she triangulates from the base of her chest floor back up into her flank, gets a little plainer through her front 1/3. So we want to tidy her up there a bit, but still a functional, practical kind of a female. She's sound enough. We just want to change her balance up somewhat.
In class number 3 in your heifer show, first place goes to entry number 487, WORR 2296 Melody 038, shown by Deanne Young from Burkett. In second was entry number 557, CS Miss Goldbuyer 9, shown by Kaylee Knox from Abilene. We're now ready to show for our Spring Heifer Calf Championship. This will be Division 1. If you would, for the heifer show, please welcome our judge, Miss Jeremy Vitor. She grew up in South Louisiana as a student. She was very active in 4-H and junior livestock activity. Eventually, she served on the National Junior Angus and Brangus Board of Directors and won national showman contests in both breeds. She attended Clarendon Junior College and graduated from Texas A&M University. While at A&M, she was a member of the livestock judging team. In the past, Jeremy worked for Camp Dooley Ranch, where they sold 1,000 bulls annually. She also worked for Silver Spur Ranch. While there, she was responsible for genetics, bull development, registered cattle, marketing, and all natural age source audits for the 15,000 head cow herd at ranch locations in Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, and Nebraska. Annually, she coordinated their AI program for 2,000 to 3,000 heifers and bull development for 250 plus bulls. Today, Jeremy works for Westway Feed Products as their national marketing manager. Based in Tomball, Texas, she works with their sales team to implement marketing strategies across the company. Jeremy's passion for helping beef industry enthusiasts ranges from designing genetic programs for large commercial ranches to exploring genetics to Australia to one of the leading Brangus operations to conducting fitting/showmanship clinics in the U.S. and other countries. She's an avid ranch photographer with covers on Drovers, Beef, Farm Journal, Bovine Veterinarian, and several breed journals. She owns cattle of multiple breeds across the country and prides herself in breeding and marketing cattle that work in the show ring and pastures. Jeremy and her mother operate a small cow-calf operation together near College Station. Jeremy is judged at the National Western, the NILE Houston Livestock Show, Fort Worth, Arizona National, Ohio Scarlet and Gray, the Big E, National Junior Red Angus Show, Angus Eastern Regional, California, Iowa, Illinois, Arkansas, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, Oregon, Tulsa, and Eastern New Mexico State Fair. She has judged showmanship at National Angus, Hereford, Charolais shows, as well as the Texas Junior Brahman Show. On the international level, she has judged in Canada and Mexico. Jeremy has also been a guest speaker at the National Brahman Beefmaster and Angus Conventions, Angus LED Convention, Conference, and Women in Ranching events. Folks, if you would, give Jeremy a big round of applause. Thank her for being here in Odessa.
Over on the Heifer ring, we come in for our first division, and I think there's a clear winner for me, and then after that you have to make a couple of quick decisions. But the young man's female in the middle will be our champion of the division. You read that female from a structure and maternal balance standpoint. I think she's just excellent. We'll pull in a second from her class. And as you analyze those remaining females, you can see that the female, the young man that wins the first class, in terms of rib shape, in terms of capacity and muscle, she's the most likely division winner. Young man that wins the first class, congratulations, you'll be reserved in this division.
Your champion in Division 1 goes to entry number 507. That's WRR Geisha Perazi 5, shown by Jarrett Worrell from Mason, Texas. Again, Jarrett sang your national anthem earlier. And your reserve champion is entry number 226, HFR Classic Image 2010-20, shown by Brinley Brogan from Paradise, Texas. We're now ready for class number 5 in the heifer show. These would be your senior heifers, calved August 1st to October 31st. In the steer show, we'd like to welcome Toby and Shelby Collins from Chattanooga, Oklahoma. They're your judges for the steer show. They operate Collins Cattle Incorporated on Toby's Family Centennial Ranch in southwest Oklahoma. They specialize in show steers and high-quality seed stock. Shelly was on Texas A&M's national champion livestock judging team, and they say their greatest accomplishment is raising 3 spectacular girls who love this industry, Sierra, Claire, and Cricket Collins. Folks, if you would, give Colby and Shelly a big round of applause and thank them for being here. Brad Holmes, you all won guns from Outpost Guns.
The rest of them. The young man that we're going to start this class with, for us, he hit us pretty hard when he came in the ring. He's just a really complete, sound structured, good-bodied calf that just really looks good from end to end. The only complaint that I would say about that calf is I'd like to see him be a little bit bigger footed off of his back feet. But again, that's being very critical of a really high-quality steer. The young man steer that's going to come next, you really like the foot size that he's got and the body depth, and you like the way he ties his neck in. He wants to get a little off in his hip, especially when he stands there, but when he's on the move, he's a really sound steer, and for us, just logically fits second in this class. The young lady steer that comes third, boy, he is a stout burger. He's really good behind his shoulders and feels good in from his pins and down through his stifle, good body shape. This guy just wants to get a little bit more mature about his head for us, wants to twist out on those front two just a nickel, but that's being critical of, again, a really high-quality, stout-made steer. The young lady steer that comes next, boy, he sure looks like a show steer when he stops. He's put together nice. He's straight in his lines. You really like the look that he gives you when she gets him set up here. He just wants to struggle a little bit off of both ends as he gets around the ring, and that's the only reason why he's fourth. If we could loosen him up out of that shoulder and out of that hock, he would have placed a little higher in this class today. A really nice steer there. The young lady that comes next, again, this is a really stout steer. He's good-bodied. You love his bone and foot. Just wants to get a little bit mature about his head and wants to knuckle on those back pasterns as he gets around the ring. The young lady and young man that comes second here, this is a really good-looking calf. You love how he ties into his shoulder. You like the shape he's got. I really like the look that he gives you off that hind leg. But again, just maybe gives up a little bit of muscle shape as compared to the cattle in front of him. And I'd like to see him handle those front feet just a little bit better as he gets around the ring. A really high-quality show steer there in that one. The young man in the blue that comes next, again, this is a calf that looks really good when you get him stopped. He's got a good feeding look to him. He's nice balanced, just kind of a plainer made calf. Like to give him a little more extension up through that front end, clean him up in his jowl, square him up out of his hip, and he'd place a little higher in this class. But that's a really good steer for that young man. The young lady that comes next, again, this calf is super stout, and you love the shape of rib. He's just a little bit bigger statured for us. Again, wants to get a little bit twisted off of those feet. Just like to give him a little bit more youthful look about his head, but a really nice steer in this class. The steer that comes next, love this calf when you get him stopped. He's just a little too straight off of those hind legs to place any higher for us. The young man that comes next, a really good-looking calf, just wants to play out there in his pins and lower stifle, like to give him a little bit more shape from behind. The young lady that rounds out this top end, don't be discouraged. You didn't make the sift. You got to get placed. The calf's got a lot of shape to him. Just like to see him handle his spine and hind structure as he gets around the ring. Guys, let's give these kids a round of applause. It was an amazing first class of steers.
In your lightweight steers, first place goes to entry number 403, shown by Luke Altman from Shallow Water. In second is entry number 30, shown by Brendan Highcock from Crawford. In third is entry number 83, shown by Gentry Locke from Miami. Fourth is entry number 480, D. Clemens from Shallow Water. Fifth is entry number 700, shown by Minnie Blue from Winters. Sixth is entry number 847, shown by Bo Benzer from Dalhart. Seventh is entry number 66, Preston Lifam from Aspermont. Eighth is entry number 32, Anna Northern from Blooming Grove. Ninth is entry number 374, shown by Kelton Carver. And 10th is entry number 77, shown by Trevor Gill from Miami. And 11th was entry number 510, shown by Survey Sexton from Cost. We'll now be showing your light middleweight steers. They weigh from 1137 to 1198. And again, you'll sell 4 out of this class. In your heifer show, this is class number 5. These are your senior heifers, calved from August 1st to October the 31st of 2019. Folks, it takes a lot of people to put these shows on. At this time, I'd like to introduce your Hereford Show Committee, your superintendents, Lisa Fuston-Schnitger, Dina Floyd, and Morgan Cox. Your sales committee chairman is Katie Day. The sales committee is Jay Chasteen, Slayton Strube, and Wade Kirkwood. And your committee members are Matt Popelka, Brandon Patchke, Samantha Yates Borgstedt, J.D. Schnicker, Sydney Smith, Bradley Hale, Rusty Day, David Carver, Brian Albus, R.D. Dolson, and Tanner Hash. Folks, if you would, give them a big round of applause. They put a lot of work in to make this show happen.
Folks, over on the Heifer side, we have an incredible class of fall females. I mean, just from top to bottom, and I'm not too sure that I wouldn't want to load all of them up, and you can just go ahead and spin her around. I wouldn't want to load them all up and breed them and calve them and come back and then tell you what I see in the females as cows, because I think there's that much quality in the cattle. And I guess the thing that decides my top pair, I obviously spent some time analyzing and thinking about this, is freshness. I read the female that wins to be quite a bit leaner in her kind, and I think about that female going forward as a show female, as a brood cow female. She's leaner in every aspect, in her chest floor, behind her forerib, at her tail head, and then you combine that with the fact that she's longer sided, and there's just some small advantages there that I see today in that female, particularly leanness and freshness. She's square built, she's square at the ground. She's not perfect on her hind foot, placed replacement when she goes away from you, but she's still sound enough, and I think she's one that fit me today. I love the design of the young man's female in terms of boxy and softness in her rib shape, but she's kind of like me. She needed to push away from the dinner table a while back. She's real soft and easy doing kind of a female, and that in this particular class, it works to her disadvantage because you read her in her chest floor, you read the indicators in terms of condition. We think about that female. She's one we want to lean up and freshen up considerably. I like the levelness of lines, the parallel lines that she has, and if you want to call her a forage efficient type female, I'm not going to argue with you because she's really, there's a lot of things about her that are my kind in terms of conservative in frame and super sound, etc. I just want to lean her up from front to back. Young man's female that comes around in third is one that's going to be a bit bigger scaled relative to the one right in front of her. Big, stout-footed female, bold in her structure. She gives up some balance. When you read her through her front 1/3, through the lower part of her chest, she begins to go downward some in her chest floor. Doesn't quite get out there and have that as attractiveness look through the front 1/3 as the two females right in front of her, but big, stout, powerful, good brood cow prospect. We give up some of that mass and rib shape in the one that comes next. Doesn't read with as much lower stifle as the female right in front of her. She gets a more upright in her shoulder blade. You watch her on her front end, she tends to be further forward, kind of stilty on her front end, and I guess I'd like to lay that shoulder blade back for her to proceed higher. Female that comes next, a young man, has one that's a bit more challenging to read because she's just a big, bold, stout beast. But with all of that boldness comes just some coarseness. I'd like to refine her just a little bit through that front 1/3, but going to be a heck of a brood cow in terms of mass and power. Really attractive, fresh female the young lady has that we conclude with. Beautiful from the side profile. When you get behind her, you look at her 3/4, she flattens up, gives up just too much base width for us in this class today. But still, that's a high quality, nice female. Top to bottom, that was a great class.
Folks, following this class, there's going to be a couple of single entries to round out this division in your late summer yearlings and your early summer yearlings. But first place in class number 5, your senior heifers, goes to entry number 511. That's Sexton Mary Elizabeth, shown by Survey Sexton from Cost. Second is entry number 506, WRR Geisha Kyra 501, shown by Jarrett Worrell from Mason. And third is entry number 54, NH Sadie G1003, shown by Cooper Kofelt from Whitney. And fourth is entry number 515, Sexton Pominette 9S4, shown by Augustus Sexton from Cost. Fifth is entry number 352, J&J Hot Dish 933 ET, shown by John Dower from Panhandle. And in sixth is entry number 186, GN Mabel Joy 191 ET, shown by Sage Beerwinkle from Earth. Again, now in the ring, this will be your late summer yearling entry. Entry number 358, shown by Jared Dower from Panhandle.
Big congratulations to these kids here. They're going to leave the ring. I mean, I'm not just saying it. There's a lot of quality out here. We're going to get the top end of them off. It's important to us to get this deal as right as we can in our own minds, and will give us a little more room to evaluate what we feel like is a top end. But there's some quality in these cattle. In my personal opinion, I would not give up on them. I would keep going. A lot of them just need some more time. There's some cattle that don't have some presence to them, and there's some cattle that do have some presence to them, but they just need more time and days on feed, in our opinion. But my congratulations to you all for getting them this far. Congratulations.
A thought came to my mind on this female when she came in. You know, this is what the Heifer is built on. This kind of Hereford female, big, stout, good doing, good at the ground, cow that can go out in West Texas or South Texas or wherever and survive. And I think this female represents a lot of things for your breed. And young man, she may not be the prettiest up there about her head and neck, but when you look at her in terms of just functional traits, that's a big-bodied, stout, good doing kind of female. Congratulations to him.
Again, that is JDP Chili Pepper, 50957, entry 358, shown by Jared Dower from Panhandle. Coming in the ring at this time will be your early summer yearling. This is entry number 180, shown by Sailor Beerwinkle.
Young lady's female is one that has a presence about her, and couple that with the soundness as you read this female, she gets out and goes, enough flex and design to her skeleton. She's big pin, wide hips, nice to ground, fresh enough. I think just going to be a super competitive female later on in the show.
In class number 7 again, that's entry number 180, SMB 743 Megan. 904 ET, shown by Sailor Beerwinkle from Earth. We're now ready to show for our intermediate division championship in the Heifer show.
When we bring the cattle out for our middle division here, young lady's female to my far right, if you recall in class, that was a challenging decision. Really opposing phenotypes, and I opted to use the leanness and freshness of that female over a female that was really big-bodied and stout-made. Just gave up just too much freshness advantage here. Female that stands in the middle class, I called her the one. If you would talk about the traditions of the Hereford breed, what you see is what you get. She's kind of meat and potatoes, basic, really foundationally fundamental, sound female. Up there in her front 1/3, she gets a little coarser, has a touch more throat, but still one you could kick out and just expect her to do her job. And then the female that's a single entry back here, you see on that female, and what you see in terms of parallel lines and design, still really open through the midsection of her body. She goes away from you with some base width. Maybe you could flatten her tail head down just a touch. Some of that is if you just get her to relax. When she gets on the go, she relaxes and it's more appropriate. Young lady that wins that oldest class, congratulations, you're going to win the division. That leaves us the two remaining females. I'm going to use a female that wins the first class. I think the added length and extension of attractiveness to the female allows her to be most appropriate.
Your intermediate champion, entry number 180, SMB 743 Megan 904 ET, shown by Sailor Beerwinkle from Earth. And your reserve is entry number 511, Sexton Mary Elizabeth, shown by Survey Sexton from Cost. And your heifer show will now be ready for your spring yearling heifers, calved from March 1st to April 30th of 2019. Now more winners of gun show drawing. Joe Coots, Cody Bob Everett, David Carver, Justin Strube. You've all won guns from ROT Firearms. Sam Sanchez, Chad Coburn, and Curtis Smith. You all won guns from Outpost Guns.
Please give these kids a big round of applause, please. Fabulous class of Hereford steers. Top two here on the front end are, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that these two are good. You know, I juggled them back and forth in my mind, and to be honest with you, at the front end of the class, I had this one winning, and that's in second. But the more I come out here and look at them and study them, there's no doubt this one needs to win the class. He's just got a little more product in him. He holds himself together better, just a nickel bit on the profile. The steer in second wants to get just a little bit relaxed, a little bit soft in his top line. Both steers are sound. I probably would give the soundness advantage to the second one, but I think both of them are very acceptable. Just a little more product in this one, and just an awesome-looking, big back, big-butted, big-boned, good calf, just to make it plain and simple. Love the freshness of the one here in second. Just a good-looking steer, like I said, just like he's standing there on the move. He doesn't show you that quite as much. He just doesn't have quite as much product in him, but he wants to get just a little bit relaxed and loses some confirmation whenever she gets him stopped. But really good, really sound, and just a awesome calf. I just love the freshness about him and his eye appeal. This steer that comes third, I love this calf. I love him on the profile. You know, he needs to handle himself just a little bit better at the ground. He's a good-looking rascal. It's got some product in him. Not near as much meat in him as maybe the front two, but enough. Just on the go, he just needs to be a little bit better at the ground. His toe placement isn't probably just spot on, but he's a good calf. I mean, you know, if those other two weren't in here, you'd think you'd have a pretty good one to win. He wants to get just a little steeper in his shoulder. We want these cattle to be sound. I'm not going to beat one that looks like that because he's not just perfect at the ground. Now, I mean, we all see it, and we can all be critical on whatever level we want to be. But that's a good calf that needs to be better at the ground. He's not going to beat those other two because of it, but a good steer nonetheless. A lot of product in this calf. He wants to get a little straighter in his front end too. But a little shorter spine, wants to get a little shorter hipped, a lot of meat, a lot of back, fresh. Young man does a good job, good bodied, good steer. This lady here, young lady here, this calf is the long-bodied one of the group we left out here. Just a little raw in his condition, a little bit leaner in his muscle, but he's a square back, shapely calf that just needs a little more time on feed. Love his length of body, love his length of front end. He balances up good. Just doesn't have the bone to go along with some of those others, but I mean, you can take a look at him right there. He's a nice-looking steer. Young man comes in next, just a really complete calf. Doesn't have a lot of power to him, but doesn't have a big hole in him. But he just needs to be have a little more overall look to him to get ahead of the one in front of him. But he's a nice steer that's got a big back in him in good condition. He's fed real good to this point. Just like to give him a little more extension, a little cleanerness up to his front 1/3 to get ahead of that calf in front of him. Young man's got a nice calf here. You can probably say a lot of the same things about. He's just lacking in the lower 1/3 of his muscle, but he's a calf that's got some eye appeal, just not as much as maybe the ones right in front of him, but a good calf that's fed real good. Young man brings a calf here that, he's a stout, but big-bodied, big-ended dude that just wants to get too tight in his forerib for me. If we could soften him up there and level him out in his back just a little bit compared to those cattle that go out in front of him. But that calf's got a lot of raw product in him. He's got a nice rib shape to him. He just needs to fill in and get better in that forerib. Young man comes here with a steer that, compared to the ones going out in front of them, these two back steers just don't have the eye appeal or the balance compared to those other cattle, and probably not quite as much muscle. This is probably the lighter muscle of the ones leaving. But cattle that, in my opinion, that last two steers, they're good feeding steers, good cattle that needed to stay out here compared to some others. But my congratulations to them. That's a heck of a top pair in that class.
Over in the heifer ring, kind of a challenging top pair to evaluate. Have two females. I think if I could combine two of them, I'd find a more appropriate female. And I had an old judging team coach named Jerry Hawkins that always told us find the ones that are the most good and run those to the top. And I think that's what this female does that wins the class. When you look at her in terms of overall rib shape, she's tremendously big barreled, really soft in terms of her design, and I guess I might lean her up just a touch. But when you look at her in terms of sheer mass, and I think there's more lower shape, you look at the female that stands second behind her. She's stronger right behind her shoulder. She's really attractive from the side. Love the lines of this female. When you look at her from behind and at a three-quarter angle, just not as much carve there to her lower stifle, not as much pop to it. But if you want to use one that's fresh and sound and attractive, I'm not going to argue that pair very hard at all. I just opted to use one that I think is more pulled apart, wider structured, over the one that's real fresh and real attractive. Next female is one that she gets just a little further forward in her shoulder blade, a little straighter knee, but really the thing I'd change her is just what I see shaping up in her udder. We're going to have a little more coarseness. She's extremely extended, long-sided. When you get behind this female, she's really wide-pinned and stout all the way to the ground. She's one that you have to appreciate just function in her kind. More attractive female stands right below her. In terms of just levelness of lines, in terms of extension, she's nice. She's got quite a bit of chest floor and quite a bit of front there underneath her neck. Combine this with, I don't see her being as much further or as far along in terms of showing udder development. Those things, and she gets up on her top just a little bit. Kind of made some choices for me. I like her better when she's stopped. She relaxes her top, becomes just a bit easier to look at. One that's from her mid-rib back, we like this female. From mid-rib forward, she triangulates downward into that bigger chest floor, one that want to just balance up better. I appreciate she's nice in terms of her foot shape, in terms of design, gets out and goes. Just want to balance her up more appropriately.
In your steer ring at this point in time, these are class number 3. These are your heavy middleweight Hereford steers, weighing from 1,210 pounds to 1,319 pounds. In your heifer show, we just showed your spring yearling heifers calved March and April. And first place went to entry number 949, HFR Genevieve, 1904 ET, shown by Hunter Tapp from Point. And second was entry number 691, FNF 4121 Jesse 910, shown by Clara Davis from Slayton. Third was entry number 940, FNF Sweetness 92, shown by Shandy Gwynn from Matador. And fourth was entry number 948, HFR Garnett 1910, shown by Hunter Tapp from Point. And sixth is entry number 740, GGSC Corinne 14GET, shown by Trinity Colson from Monahans. Now in the ring, these are going to be your junior yearling heifers calved in January and February of 2019. This class will be followed by your senior division champion and then your grand champion female in the Hereford show.
two big stallion yearling females, and you think you analyze these females in terms of rib shape, in terms of all the basics of volume, and there's enough body in both of those females. Young man to my right is going to win the class based on balance. I think his female is more appropriate when you read her in terms of strength at top, how she handles her loin, just how she handles her chest floor. You know, I'd set that female's knee further back, and I'd like to see her a little further along in terms of where she is calving-wise, but the young man indicates she is bred, and I think you see enough to utter and vulva development to that's accurate. Just that added look and balance allows her to win the class. Big old tank here in second. She's one that's extremely wide-middled. You get behind her, and she tapers just a little bit from hooks to pins, but where I'd change her is just strengthening her loin, and some of that is just a big calf sitting in her, and then she gets a little heavier chested, but comes around underneath herself a bit. But good, sound, functional cattle. Two of those females are nice pair in this class.
In Class 9 of your heifer show, first place goes to entry number 356, JPD Chili Pepper 900 ET, shown by Jared Dower from Panhandle. And in second was entry number 614, HAPP Connect the Dots 190, shown by Creed Evans from Petersburg. In the heifer show, you'll now show for your senior champion. This will be division number 3, and that will be followed by your champion. In your second class of steers, first place went to entry number 79, shown by Jet Hale from Miami. In second is entry number 606, shown by Madeline Wall from Idalou. In third is entry number 8, shown by Hagen Hensley from Floydada. In fourth is entry number 537, shown by Reagan Day from Meadow. Fifth was entry number 346, shown by Rachel Watley from Groom. Sixth is entry number 420, shown by Rafe Harrell from Denver City. Seventh was entry number 879, shown by Roxton Stone from Stanton. Eighth was entry number 222, shown by Tyler Mutz from Floresville. Sixth and ninth was entry number 178, shown by Warren Taylor from Tahoka. And then 10th was entry number 115, shown by Sean Lifesty from Cameron. Now in the ring will be class number 3 of your steers, and these are your heavy middleweights, weighing from 1,210 to 1,319 pounds.
Absolutely some give and take in this division. I don't think there's one female that just really hit me hard, but there's sure a lot of functional parts and pieces and just good cattle in this division, and I think that's the thing we have to recognize. Young man's female that wins the first class, she's a big stout beast in terms of rib shape, in terms of capacity. Her neck comes out of her shoulder just a little higher, and I think it's probably a little hard for that young man to get her head up as high as she needs to, but still I think that added advantage in terms of just overall dimension you have to appreciate. young man's female that wins the second class has that advantage of a bit more look. She's just a touch staler to me. I don't see quite as much calf in her at this point, but still one that's super attractive, one that you appreciate. You might want to lay her knee back, just as I said earlier in class. There's some give and take in that division. If I was going to turn them out in the pasture, young man that wins the first class, she's the one I'd like in my pasture, so let's pull her out. Congratulations to him. Young lady, let's pull your heifer in. I said in class about the young lady that stands in second. She had a female that's incredibly sound, just got a bit flatter for me, but still I think her advantage of freshness and flex and angles of her structure allow her to be the one that's next. In my mind, young lady will be reserve division. Congratulations to her.
Their senior champion goes to entry number 949, HFR Genevieve 1904, shown by Hunter Tapp from Point. And your reserve senior champion, entry number 691, FNF 4121 Jesse 910, shown by Clara Davis from Slayton. We'll now show for your champion. While they're bringing in the champion and reserve champions from the Hereford Show, the show was dedicated to Bob and Joe John Cox, who began their life ranching in Hyco, Texas, shortly after they married in 1953. In 1955, they returned to Martin County due to the drought and began raising their Hereford cattle on the family's ranch 2 miles west of Tarzan. They raised their 3 children near the ranch. 2 of their 3 children continue the family business on that same land today. Bob and Joe John raised registered and commercial Hereford cattle through the years. They were active in the Texas Hereford Association and the Texas Hereford Auxiliary. Joe John held different offices in the auxiliary, including Ways and Means chairwoman. She was often seen toting a card table and a suitcase full of Hereford merchandise, jewelry, caps, shirts, and more to sell at stock shows and around the state. Bob and Joe John were active supporters of the Texas Junior Hereford Association. All 3 of their children were directors of the Texas Junior Hereford Association. Bob and Joe John served as advisors to the board many times during these years. Joe John accompanied Texas Juniors to the American Junior Hereford Association meeting in Kansas City. Bob and Joe John loved stock shows and took their kids to shows around Texas. After their kids all graduated, Bob continued to sell Hereford show steers to youth from across the state. Through the years, they loved and supported the Sandhills Hereford Show. They always enjoyed visiting with their Hereford friends, both old and new. Bob and Joe John have 3 children, Morgan Cox of Tarzan, Robert and wife Dixie of Spring Branch, and Joanna Merrick and husband John of Stanton. They also have 4 grandchildren, Cameron Cox and wife Carol, Destiny Cox, Sterling Allen, and Jo Beth Merrick. Joe John passed away in 1990. Bob and Morgan continued the ranching operation until Bob's death in 2009. Morgan and Jonama carry on family business today. Folks, please recognize your show honorees, Bob and Joe John Cox, and their family.
As we bring our females out for champion Hereford female, you can't help but think about, you're in Odessa and the legacy and the heritage of the Hereford breed. I think that's admirable, and the folks that put this show on together, you guys need to be congratulated. And just when I think about Hereford cattle, I think about this show and the traditions and what your breed does for registered and commercial cowmen. Line up out here, I think, exemplifies of what we can do in this breed. You can have good-footed, maternal design cattle, go out and make cows, and just good, durable cattle that continue on with that Hereford legacy. Female that hit me real hard when she came in earlier. I think about Junior Nationals next summer. Think about down the road for the majors. And there's one female I think that has Worlds of Future to her. Young man that wins the first division. Congratulations, you're going to have champion female.
Congratulations, Mr. Worrell. Your grand champion heifer is entry number 507, WORR Geisha Perazzi, shown by Jarrett Worrell from Mason.
Decision for reserve gets a bit closer in my mind as you analyze a young heifer calf that's a lot like our champion in terms of freshness and build and design. And you have a summer yearling that's headed to the right direction in terms of where she's going to be as a cow. Really nice in terms of her foot shape and freshness. Big old rib shape to her. I love the expanse to her. Congratulations to the young lady with the intermediate summer division. She'll be reserved.
Reserve grand goes entry number 180. That's SMB 743 Megan 904 ET, shown by Sailor Beerwinkle from Earth.
Hey guys, y'all got two awesome looking.
Well, you're doing good. I love this. Colby asked one of the kids how much his calf weighed. He goes, well, he had to think about it. And it was just the cutest thing ever.
So in the heifer show, folks, we're going to move right into our pole heifer show. And we're going to start with class number 13. These will be your late spring polled heifers, calved May 1st of 2020 and later.
Walk them forward.
I've got a mic. We knew this was going to just keep getting better and better, and you guys are giving us all you've got, and we really love it. Guys, the ones here on this side, please don't be disappointed. You guys live in Texas, and you've got lots of major shows this spring that you can run these cattle at. Some of these cattle just need a little more time. Some of them have had too much time. Structure, body depth, performance, those are just some things that have sorted the cattle that are going to be exiting the ring from the ones that are going to stay. You guys, there's a lot of quality over here. Just keep at it. You guys work hard, and let's give them a hand as they exit the ring, and we'll continue to sort on these 11 or 12 that are over here.
while they work through this steer class. We'd like to congratulate the family of T and Joe Knox. They're your show honorees for the steer show. T and Joe were married in 1954. T was a second generation born and raised Midlander and third generation Hereford breeder on the same ranch at Tarzan, Texas, as operated today by his daughter and son-in-law, Kathy and Gary Buckholz. Joe was from Colorado City, Texas, and loved rodeo, was the first National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association champion cowgirl in 1951. Joe's parents gave the newlyweds 2 registered Hereford heifers to add to T's existing herd of cattle. In short time, T and Joe phased out amateur rodeoing and started selecting and fitting Hereford sale bulls they raised from their registered cows. They consigned sale bulls to the South Plains Hereford Association sale successfully in the 50s and 60s, later consigning bulls to the Concho Hereford sale in San Angelo. T and Joe's daughter Kathy started showing Hereford heifers in 1971 at Sandhills. The next year, she showed ranch-raised Hereford steers and joined the Texas Junior Hereford Association. T also showed Hereford steers while growing up in the 40s with friends Bob Cox, W.D. Chandler, Bruce Key, and Jerry Bohannon, to name a few. He exhibited the Reserve Grand Steer dry lot at the Sandhills Hereford Show with a ranch-raised steer from his grandmother, Ida Walcott. T's daughter Kathy showed the 1974 Reserve Grand Steer with a steer also raised on the family Walcott Ranch. Each year, T and Kathy showed steers in their respective careers. Neither father or daughter missed showing at the Sandhills Hereford Show. The Sandhills was the largest straight Hereford steer show in the nation at the time. Furthermore, the premium sale was outstanding, and in the 70s, it was as competitive as the other major premium sales, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Houston. In that era, it was amazing to just make the sale with your steer. There were only 4 classes of steers, and there would be steers lined up 3/4 the way around the Coliseum. It was an accomplishment, to say the least, to stay in the barn back in the day. The tradition continues as Knox Herefords has produced many breed champions, reserve breed champions, and steers making the premium sales at Sandhills, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, many county shows right up through the current show season. In addition, T and Joe exhibited several breeder group of 3 steers at Sandhills through the 80s and 90s. T and Joe were very strong supporters of the Sandhills show, always in attendance supporting junior showmen as well as lending a hand where needed. Folks, if you would, give the Knox family and all their family a big round of applause for their long-term support.
Fun class of young polled females to evaluate. And, well, obviously the bigger performance female of the pair, it wins the class, but she doesn't do so because of the added size that we see. In fact, she probably pushes the envelope for me in maturity. Instead, it's just the sheer mass that you see in this female. You read her behind her shoulder all the way down her top and how she's wide pinned and wide based to the ground. There's more foot structure, more bone to that female. And so just all of that combined, I call her a more powerful female, and so she wins the class. The one that I'd say is a really, really nice prospect female that has lots of future to her stands here in second, and I'm not too sure she's not going to give our class winner a run down the road as she matures, because she's so juvenile and so fresh right now. She's one I think has lots of future. Yes, I'd like to power her up in terms of her bone work, and I guess that's probably just the only thing that she's just a hair refined for me, but really nice in terms of slopes and angles and just juvenile freshness, nice made. Her advantage in terms of how she's designed her front 1/3 is much more correct than our female we have here in second. This one's more round. She has more roundness and boldness to her shoulder when I extend her up front. She's similar to the one in front of her in terms from her midrib back, and that she's wide pinned and nice made. Just want to make her a bit more conservative up through that front end. Female that's big and stout and burly stands here next, and you like like all of that about her, but when you read her from her loin all the way into her hip and down at the ground, she gets quite a bit more rigid, both in her past and her hock. We want to see that female have more flex and give for her to proceed higher. She's a lot like our class winner in terms of pushing, in terms of maturity. Sure enough, one of the big performance ones in the class, but just that added rigidity that we see in her structure, she can't go any higher. Two really feminine, fresh, angular kind of females come next. Female that stands here has a bit more rib shape when you read her. She's one though triangulates from her chest floor up into her flanks. So we want to body her down relative to the length of cannon that we see. Want to make sure she has enough ribs. She just needs more drop. And then one that's really parallel and are strong in her top and flat and feminine in front. She's one though when you get behind her, she wants to have too much rotation and deviation in her hock. I want to square that female up on her hind legs. Still one that has lots of look to her from the side profile. One that as she gets more, as she matures, she's going to get better. Just need to square her up behind as she goes away from you.
In your first class of Polled Hereford Heifers is class number 13. First place went to entry number 280, CEC HFR Genuine Image, shown by Cody Outlaw from Alvord. In second is entry number 184, RW Penny, 8028 0023, shown by Sloan Beerwinkle from Earth. Third was entry number 558, 7H, Ada's Hope 04, shown by Kaylee Knox from Abilene. And fourth was entry number 561, 7H, Extra Goldie 03, shown by Riley Hollis from Clyde. Fifth is entry number 59, W4, 108E, Miss Mark, H157, shown by Reagan Pavelka from Whitney. And in sixth was entry number 690, F&F 2296, Stormy, 037, shown by Clara Davis from Slayton. Now in the ring will be your spring Polled Herefords they were calved from March 1st to April 30th of 2020. More winners in the Sandhills gun raffle. Mark Altman, Tanya Gillen, Chad Oates. Boy, I don't know about arming him. Becky White Dumas, Elizabeth Schulte Harder, Travis Cox, Roger Strube, Chad Minner, Gilbert Towns, Tanner Skinner, Mickey Hurley, and Beth Stone. They all win guns from Daddies. And we'll have a few more to announce shortly.
At the top end of this polled class, two really high quality females and some subtle differences between the two females. Young man with the cowboy hat, his female hits you with just a striking balance when she hits the ring. She's really, in terms of combination of traits, she's one that I think is very, very complete. You read her in terms of her openness to her rib shape and from her chest forward back to her flank. I like that rib design. I think she has more flex and more angle off of both ends, just a touch more give to her hock. Now the female that stands second, if you want to say she's longer sided, bigger bone, I'm not going to argue that at all, but I read that female to have just a bit more straightness to her structure, and it starts in her pastern. There's just less flex off of both front and rear pastern. She's one that when she gets on the go, she can sometimes get just a hair rigid in her movement. Some of that I think she just gets going a little fast and gets a little choppy, but those are two high quality, good cattle. I just opted to use the added softness, completeness of that class winner. Two really, really good females. And again, we bring a dark white female come around next. She's one that's from her midrib forward is a lot like our class winner in terms of that juvenile freshness. She's big top, she's big hipped. She disappoints you quite a bit when you watch that female in terms of the design to her rear leg. She drives her hock, and I don't see just that overall flex and give that I want to see out of her pastern and out of her hock. So we want to change her from a structure standpoint. Still, I think the added length and extension and freshness is an advantage over the little moderate female that comes next. If you want a forage efficient, big bodied, soft made female, this one fits the bill. And she's a little shorter sided, and that's where I'd like to change her, is just lengthen her out, and even in her face is just a touch shorter faced. Just give her more extension because she's relatively sound, not as powerful in terms of her bone work of the females on either side of her. Good practical kind of a female. One that concludes the class is probably going to challenge her some in terms of scale, in terms of growth. Today she's just really green. She tends to narrow up as you look at her from behind, but I think in terms of just attractiveness, overall extension, you have to appreciate that female.
In your spring heifer calves, first place goes to entry number 391, BACC 629 Georgia K, shown by Braden Mims from Lorenzo. Second is entry number 580, Wildcat Elme Malibu, shown by Dylan Hartman from Crero. And third is entry 906, MJR Point Value 019, shown by Mason Roeder from Seguin. In fourth is entry number 737, C4 Heavens Marker, shown by Trinity Colston from Monahans. And in fifth is entry number 488, WORR 79D Poetry 41H, shown by Elena Young from Burkett. Down the ring will be your junior heifer calves, shown from January 1st to February 28th of 2020.
These top two here kind of make me smile on the inside because everybody wants to pick your type and kind and want to know what's your type, what's your kind. And these two are pretty different in their type and kind in certain ways, and in other ways they're very similar. One thing about Colby and I is we don't care what color the cattle are. We don't care what size they are. We just want them to be good. And both of these steers right here are just phenomenally good, and that's why we took so much time picking them apart and watching them walk. And, you know, both of these young showmen are giving it all they've got out here, and we commend them for that. I mean, we have young showmen too. But the young man steer, we're going to go ahead and start with him. He is fundamentally the most complete, the nicest balance from end to end. For me, he was a little bit bigger statured when he first came in, but the longer he's out here, we realized that this calf just needs to win this class. He's made right, he moves good, he's got a ton of muscle, he's sound, and he looks the part from end to end, and this young man has been busting his butt getting him set up, and we commend him for that. Nothing to go against this young lady here. This calf is stout. He's good-bodied. I like his size better than the steer that wins. He's good-boned and footed. But at times, he just wants to get a little bit easy in the center of his back and get up in his top. And he doesn't want to handle his hind legs near as good as the steer that wins this class on the move. And, guys, that's what it came down to. I mean, these are two really good steers, and it's just the little things that set them apart from one another. This young man steer that comes in third, I really like him when he gets him standing. He stands beautifully. For me, he wins the class when he's standing. When he gets on the move, he wants to break behind his shoulder and kind of drop in his pins a little bit, and he just doesn't want to hold himself together quite as good as those top two. And when you get a really stout, good-looking calf in a class this tough, unfortunately, he just gets third. But that's a really, really good steer right there. The young lady that comes in fourth, I really like the balance and the look that this calf gives you. He's big-boned, he's big-footed, he's sound, but he kind of just wants to get a little piecey and a little poorer balanced, especially when he gets on the move. He wants to get a little bit more caved in behind his shoulder and just doesn't have the extra shape, particularly as he comes from hooks to pins as the steer's ahead of him. You give that calf just a little bit more time, and I think he's going to be a good one on down the road. That's a good calf. Same goes for this dark red steer next here. Boy, you look at this calf, and he hits you hard. He's really smooth. He's nice balanced. He's sound. And he just gives up the extra shape of muscle of those calves ahead of him, wants to kind of play out when you look at him from behind, and that's why he's fifth in this class. But a really good-looking steer, sound, nice made, got a lot of really good pieces there. The young lady that comes in sixth here, this is a calf that we really like. He's sound, or no, he's not sound. I mean, he gets really straight in that shoulder, and that's the way he wants to paddle off that front end is why he didn't make that top cup. But you really like the uniformity of depth that he's got from his forerib to his flank. He's got a lot of shape of rib. He comes pretty square out of his hip, and you just like the look that he gives you when he's standing there. Just doesn't have the extra soundness and the extra look and pizzazz of the ones ahead of him. You give that calf a little bit more time, he could do well on down the road. That's a really nice steer that in a different lineup, he could win a class, but just doesn't have the extra angle to his shoulder to compete with the ones today. The young lady that comes next, that calf's really good and uniform in his body depth. When he's standing, you like his look. Maybe just want to extend him up through his front end. Wants to get a little bit plainer in his overall appearance, but a really nice calf. Again, a meat wagon here that comes next. I love the amount of product that calf has from end to end. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry in this cold air. But he just needs to move a little bit better, handle his pins and his hind leg a little bit better to place higher in that class today. The young lady that comes next, this is a really pretty calf. Again, love the body depth, love the uniformity, love the look. Just needs to handle those rear pasterns better to place higher. The young lady that's next here is same for her. Her calf, he's really pretty. You love his neck. You love how straight he is in these lines. But for me, he needs to be deeper in the center portion of his body and needs to be deeper from forerib to flank to run up with those other calves. But again, with a little time, that's going to come for that calf. And on down the road, he could be a contender. As these calves exit the ring, they made the top cut. They just kind of give up a little in the structure department, get a little plainer in their appearance, a little piecier in their body makeup, but definitely contenders on down the road. Let's give these kids a hand, please.
Really, really nice set of females over on the Hereford side and the Heifer side. Female that we win the class with is striking in terms of her presence, but how she holds herself together and assembles the strength at top, the muscularity, and still has a cow look to her. It really appeals to me. That female is extremely complete, and I just like the squareness of build, the correctness of structural design. Young man's female is one that is probably just a touch flatter over, and I think she's probably just a little leaner, but I don't see as much true muscle shape as I read her comparative to the class winner. I think the one that wins a class, if you want to say she's the power one and you want to say the one that's in second is a maternal one, I don't think I would argue with you. I just think those are two really good females, and I think the class winner has a touch more power and a touch more muscle read. Two excellent females. Young man, let's lead the third female around. Let's go ahead around. Similar in terms of muscularity of the first two females, similar in terms of rib shape and soundness. It's at the ground that she hit some challenges. You read this female in terms of toe shape and weight distribution on her feet, and the longevity of this female as a cow concerns me. I'd like to just change the design of her foot, because from her go higher up in her body, I think she's very competitive with those females that stood ahead in class. She's similar in terms of build from the knee and hock up, but she just has more dimension to her and more depth from top of her rib to the base of her rib compared to the one in second. This heifer or next female behind her, young man's female here, is she's lean, she's long, and today she gives up too much body depth, too much body dimension to run higher in this class. And when you read her in just overall rib shape compared to some of those others, she's not as soft when you back away and look at her. She is as stout and she is as wide pinned as those females in front of her, but she's one you just want to see her softer and more mature in her rib shape. We conclude with a female that's really practical in her kind. She is one that's softer through her midsection, but she also combines this with a bit more front. I think as she matures, her chest floor is going to come down some, not going to balance up as well, but still she's sound, she's easy fleshing in her design. Good class, top to bottom.
In your heifer show, first place in that class goes entry number 504, WORR Y79D Mistletoe, shown by Jarrett Worrell from Mason. In second is entry number 182, RW Barbie 203D 0009ET, shown by Slade Beerwinkle from Earth. In third is entry number 400, BACC 540 Shandon 015, shown by Lawson Mims from Slayton. Fourth is entry number 581, RW KLD Amelia 7454 001, shown by Dylan Hartman from Cairo. And in fifth place is entry number 350, JPD Benita 010, shown by John Dower from Panhandle. Will now show for your Division I Calf Championship. In your heavy middleweight class in the steer show, first place goes to entry number 551, shown by Jet James from Prosper. In second is entry number 81, shown by Harper Hale from Miami. In third is entry number 102, shown by Drake Armas from Groover. Fourth is entry number 2, shown by Jersey Harlan from Wellman. Fifth is entry number 881, shown by Jade Stone from Stanton. Sixth is entry number 482, shown by Brinley Swan from Shallowater. Seventh was entry number 416, shown by Aniston Floyd from Denver City. Eighth was entry 218, shown by Stratton Church from Ropesville. Ninth is entry number 275, it's Taylor Grubbs from Flower Mound. 10th is entry number 600, shown by Braxy Albus from Levelland. 11th was entry number 375, shown by Gentry Chisholm from Abernathy. 12th was entry 978, shown by Knox Vestal from Willow Park. And 13 was entry number 97, shown by Adeline Reed from Cress. Now in the ring will be your heavyweight Hereford steers, weighing from 1333 to 1499. Folks, if you have a red Lincoln with the tag number MKC LHZ 5414, it's fixing to be pushed out of the way in the parking lot. It's in front of a trailer that needs to be loaded. So if you have a red Lincoln MKC license number LHZ 5414, you need to probably go get that car moved right away.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give all these kids a big round of applause, please. Hey, these guys have got these cattle at a good optimum weight. They've got them fed well. Man, and that is something that they should, every one of them, be commended on. Trust me, I know, my family knows, this is not an easy thing to do, to take them all the way through the year, get them to this point, and the dadgum judge sends you out the ring. I'm sorry. But we feel like we got the ones we like off the top end. That is not to say there's some more exceptionally nice steers out here. It's just our opinion. Please go home and keep working on them. There are some good calves going out the gate here. And my congratulations to each and every one of you for getting them to this point.
Over on the Heifer show, we have our Heifer calf division, and it's fun when you get this kind of quality to come back and you can see the cattle in a comparative manner in their classes. But most important to me is just the cow quality that we see out here in our lineup of champions, our class winners, and our reserves. I think that's pretty neat and really commendable to the breeders when you have this kind of quality come back in a division. One female hits me really hard in terms of just being very complete, one that has sound. She's stout, she's attractive, assembles those parts and pieces really well, checks a lot of boxes. Young man right in front of me, congratulations, she's going to win the division. Let's go ahead and pull her out. I can go several different ways for reserve and justify it in terms of soundness, in terms of completeness, in terms of just a type of cattle that I like. Young man that pulls in second, congratulations, you're going to be reserve.
In Division 1 of your poll show, first place, or your champion, goes to entry number 504, WORRY79D Mistletoe, shown by Jarrett Worrell from Mason. And your reserve champion, entry number 182, RW Barbie 203D0009ET, shown by Slade Beerwinkle from Earth. We'll now be ready for a single entry in your winter polled calves. This heifer's born December 2nd of 2019.
That's good. Single entry here in our fall class. She's one that checks a lot of boxes from just functionality. She's one that you look at her in terms of rib shape and has a forage efficient look to her. She's nice enough in terms of hitting the ground. She's not super chiseled up front, but I don't mind that. I think she has a cow look to her, one that's going to go out and do a nice job for the young man.
That's entry number 55, BACC 6543 Serendipity, shown by Cooper Kofelt from Whitney. We're now ready for your senior heifers calf from August 1st to October the 31st of 2019.
Young lady's female is going to start the class, and she has a real brood cow look when you get her stopped on a profile. She's one that's just tanky in her rib shape and open through her midsection, lots of volume and dimension. She wants to soften her top just a little bit, has some chest floor, and I'd like to square her up in terms of her hind foot. She wants to roll, the weight is on the outside of her hoof wall there, so we want to flatten her foot just a little bit. But if you want to talk about just sheer mass and volume, cow prospect is what I'd call her. She has to win the class for me. Two extra long-sided females that are very different in their kind stand next. I'd like to see more of them have more, or both of them have more flank, drop them down just a bit. But I opted to use a female that's just a bit nicer through how her head-neck juncture comes together, the trimness to her front end there for second. She's one that's just, I think, more appropriate in her balance. Female that stands in third and concludes the class is big, rugged, stout female, tremendously powerful when you get behind her, but with that added power comes a bit more masculinity and boldness to her shoulder. I appreciate she's one that's big-footed and stout-structured. Just like to see her a bit more feminine, see perhaps just a bit more cow softness to her.
In Class 17, your senior pole heifers. First place goes to entry number 615, LCC 124Y, Miss Starstruck, shown by Taylor Criswell from Idalou. And second is entry number 281, JCG, Image Me, 286W, shown by Dalton Outlaw from Alvoid. And third is entry number 891, Miss Kitty Lou, shown by Cole Baker from Water Valley. In the ring at this time, in your heifer show, this is your summer yearling. This is entry number 612, shown by Creed Evans.
Young man's female is a lot like the previous class winner in terms of being really convex in a rib shape and open and soft through her design. One that when you watch her go here, she wants to be just a little outside and underneath herself and her hind leg. She's going to be functional, just not quite as attractive. But if you want to talk just a cow, kick out in the pasture and have some doability to her, she hits that mark.
Again, that's entry 612, 2E TJ Cotton Blossom, 7319, shown by Creed Evans from Petersburg. Now ready for your early summer yearling heifers. These are calved in May and June of 2019, and this will be followed by your intermediate division championship.
We have to make some choices here in this particular class, and the young lady's female we're going to start with, I'm going to be the first to say I'd like to lay that female's tail head down further into her hip, and I think she'd be just a little more attractive. But she's long, she's sound, and you look at the added extension, the femininity that she has. I look at her from a maternal build, and she's more appropriate for me. Female that stands in second, yes, she's probably a bit rounder in her rib, but some of that's due to condition, and I read her from a balance standpoint. I think she's heavier chested and lower set in her pins, so it's just balance, and so overall femininity allows our class winner to proceed. Appreciate the softness, the soundness of with the female we conclude with.
In Class 19, first place goes to entry number 738, HFR Gina, 1905 ET, shown by Trinity Colston from Monahans. And in second was entry number 939, F&F, 4440 Josie, 928, shown by Shandy Gwynn from Matador. Now ready to show for your intermediate champion polled heifer. In the steer show, we'll need all your first place and second place steers from the first classes. Please come to the make ready area.
Some decisions to be made here in our division lineup, and I think you have to ask yourself in terms of quality, in terms of correctness of structure and design of foot at the ground, what's your emphasis? And I think in the Hereford breed, we have to keep that in the forefront of our mind. You know, what we're doing is making females and bulls to go out and live in range country. So that's pretty high in my mind, and I think the next thing is you look at these cattle in terms of balance and freshness and eye appeal. There's one female I think that does all of those things to the highest degree for me. She gives up some in terms of just overall mass and rib shape, but she's probably hadn't been pushed, and probably just the most honest heifer in the group. Young man in the far right, congratulations, you're going to win the division.
That's entry number 55, BACC, 6543 Serendipity, shown by Cooper Kofelt from Whitney.
second, and he was a single entry, and the female that did second in line, she moved up here. I think she's next most appropriate in terms of just being a big brood cow, still have some attractiveness. Congratulations to the young lady that won the second class. She'll be a reserve division.
That's entry number 615, LCC 124Y, Miss Starstruck, shown by Taylor Criswell from Midaloo.
We come back for our champion polled female, and certainly not disappointed in the quality of the females that we've seen here. And you look at these cattle, and it's pretty indicative of my type of cattle. They're what we end up with. They're good-footed, they're sound to the ground, the slopes and angles are right, and still they have some functionality in terms of going out and be cows. I'm one of those people. I happen to think that we can make cattle that win in the show ring and still can go out and be cows, and I like to select that kind of cattle. There's one female, I've talked to her pretty consistently. I said she hit me really hard, just in terms of the checking a lot of boxes and still being fresh. I think she's going to be really competitive as she goes out down the road. Think about her next summer and in the next fall. There's lots of quality, lots of breeding value. Young man that wins the first division, congratulations, you're going to have the champion polled female. I told him a while ago, and he got just a big old grin. I said, I can even find this one. And he shook his head and agreed with me. So let's go ahead and lead her out. Congratulations. Two females that remain that come in. The one that comes in that's reserved, super fresh and really maternal in her look. And then we have one that's ultra conservative in her size, a bit more power. But I'm going to keep the two together that came from that first division. I think the quality and the freshness of the young man's female that's second, she's the one that needs to be reserved. Congratulations.
Please give them a round of applause. What a class of Hereford steers we've got here. I'm not going to lie, we did a little arguing and cussing and discussing on this class. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of quality out here. I mean, is there a perfect one? I don't know that the good Lord's ever made one that was perfect, in my opinion. But he dang sure sent some good ones to the ring here today. I mean, some good ones. The steer that wins, you know, I probably didn't have them winning the class right off, but the more you're out here and the more you analyze that class, this calf needs to win this class. He's stout, he's complete, he's sound, he's good looking. Does he wow you like maybe this second place one does in an area or two? Maybe not, but it is what it is. I mean, he's a really good steer. He's just doesn't have a big hole in him. He's got muscle. He's got a back in him. I would like to probably give him a little more degree of finish if you want to nitpick that calf, but he's just a stout, big back, long spined, good-looking animal. It moves good. Love the profile and the presence. So this is the one that comes second, no question. I mean, I'm a sucker for one that looks like that. His movement's good enough, and but having said that, a calf just needs a little more punch in him. He needs a little more down low. Just he's hairy and his design's all good and everything's his hips good. He just needs more muscle for me. But I'm not going to bury that calf any deeper than that, and even thought about using him to win the class because you got to appreciate the look and the profile and the balance and everything about that steer. He's good bodied. Just needs more punch. Now this one that comes third's got the punch. Big back, big butted, big bone, gets around good. Having said all that, he wants to get a little plainer in his neck. Not so much that's not what gets him third for me. Is just the longer he's out here, he wants to lose some conformation and some balance. Listen, this is a steer show. I mean, we want them stout and we want them good looking, and I want one that hits me hard from the beginning to the end in a perfect deal that holds himself together good. He just gets a little bit loose in his top and his conformation the longer he's out here. That calf is eat up with muscle. He's got back. He's got butt in him, his bone. And he's a good calf, a really good calf. I mean, he's got more muscle than this second place one, but this second place one just has got the look and the eye appeal. That's how we're going to leave him. The calf that comes fourth, not a big hole in that calf. He's the heaviest one out here, but you gotta leave him in the mix on this deal. It's a tough class of steers. He's complete. He's good bodied. He's sound structured. He's good muscled. He's just a little bigger and doesn't have the wow factor to him as some of those others do that going out there a little bit bigger in his kind. But awfully good calf that comes fourth in this class. He come in here with some tough competition, just a little bigger in his kind for me today. Shelly and I argued about this calf that comes next. He's just not sound enough for her, and I agree he probably needs to be a little bit sounder. If he could move a little bit better with all that punch he's got in him, that back and butt, he's got a good look to him. He's fresh. I like that calf. He's just not kosher enough on his feet and legs to beat those ones that go out in front of them. But an awfully good steer. I fought for you to get you in there where I did. Shelly liked them to be a little bit sounder than what she was. Shelly liked this steer that comes next, and I do too. I mean, he's a gorgeous calf. To me, he's just, for his weight and where he's at, he's just lacks some maturity and lacks some and needs a little more days on feed. I mean, he's so elegant up through his neck and so good looking that it probably hurt him just a little bit feeding him for this show. I appreciate the calf for the way that he is. He's sound enough, structured, and good enough muscled. He just needs to soften up in that flank and forerib and get a little more mature to get ahead of those cattle ahead of them. But please don't get discouraged on that steer. I like him. Shelly really liked him. She liked him a little better than I did, but it is what it is. Today's not his day, but keep fighting. Love the stoutness of this one here. Really extra long necked and long spined, big butted. He wants to get a little wide when he goes, or just a little more than just a little, and it takes away from his attractiveness for me. Shelly really liked this steer. She probably would have used him a whole higher in her opinion. But his feet look good and stuff. He's nice-footed. He's a good-footed, big-footed steer. But when he walks away and goes, he just wants to get outside himself, and it takes away from his attractiveness in my eye. Really complete, good steer here that comes next. Like the completeness of this calf, he just doesn't have the punch and overall look compared to those ones and balance that those ones that go out in front of him. But good calf. He fed real good. The young lady did a good job getting him to this point. Just a good steer that needs a little more wow factor to get ahead of those other ones. Much can be said about this steer here. He's a really stout steer that wants to fall apart in his conformation a little bit. Has a bit of navel, wants to take away from him, but a really stout, powerful calf. I like this young man's calf here next. He needs more muscle, I know it, but I love his body. I mean, I'd say some females that were mates to that one would probably go out and make pretty good replacement females, but he just needs more muscle. But I appreciate everything else about him. He's complete, he's sound, he's good-bodied. He just needs more booty front from behind. Steer here that comes next, it's just a real heavy muscled steer that's got some design and look to him, but wants to get a little plainer up in his front 1/3, but a calf that's got just a little raw looking for me. Wants to be just almost a touch muscular and needs a little balance there to help that calf on down the road. This steer here comes next. He's on the other end of things. He needs more muscle to get ahead of some of those other ones. Calf, what you'd like to balance him up a little better in his front 1/3, shift some of that chest back a little bit. But good calf. Please give those kids a round of applause. They did a great job. Tough steer show.
Sounds like it could be a long ride back to Chattanooga. All that arguing. Anyway, in class number 4, your steers, first place goes to entry number 6, shown by Swayze Harlan from Wellman. Second is entry number 650, shown by Allison Stone from Hamlin. Third is entry number 601, Tyler Chase from Levelland. Fourth is entry number 18, shown by Ethan Dragger from Bridgeport. Fifth is entry number 415, shown by Aniston Floyd from Denver City. Sixth is entry number 146, shown by Riley Shacker from Dumas. And seventh is entry number 233, shown by Avon Horn from Anson. In eighth is entry number 130, shown by Miranda Skaggs from Bryan. In ninth was entry number 111, shown by Styles Payton from Thorndale. 10th is entry 975, shown by Mason Nelson from Seagraves. And in 11th was entry number 390, shown by Braden Mims from Lorenzo. And 12th was entry number 490, shown by Caden Schroeder from Caldwell. Now entering the ring in your steer show is your grand championship. This will be your first and second places from the first 4 classes. In your heifer show, we're now showing for Supreme Champion female, so it'll be your grand from the horn breed and grand from the pole, and we'll pick a Supreme.
No need to go back and recap the cattle, but just a couple of quick comments. Folks ringside, let's put hand. I still don't have it figured out, Robbie. Let's put our hands together to show our appreciation for Mr. Cox. This guy right here. We'll try this one. Mr. Cox, as he was just explaining to me his heritage here in the region, and I'd say in the Hereford breed. And folks, these are the kind of guys that allow us to continue to show cattle. So I want to say thank you, Mr. Cox. I reached out to the Vest family earlier today. That was a sponsor as well. So I think we always need to keep those folks in mind. Make sure you say thank you. Next thing I want to say is Shelly and Kobe, let me get y'all together for just a second. You have to pull Kobe out there. This is both of you. These two young people, look how cute. These two young people, I have the utmost admiration for. They grew up doing this day in, day out. They do it day in, day out. They raise cattle. This is how they make their living. And Shelly, you'll always be Shelly Belly to me. And I hope you don't tell any stories. But folks, you couldn't have any better choice to model for your young people in the Hereford breed than Shelly and Colby. Let's give them a round of applause. Two great ones. They're examples of what our programs and youth can do. And then the last thing, this goes for everybody that's in the steer barn and the heifer barn, moms, dads, parents, grandparents, whoever you are. This is really, really important. In today's world, we have to carry the message of the beef industry and agriculture forward. Each of us here have to step up and tell our story about the positives of the beef industry, that we are the conservationists, that we are the stewards of the land, and that we raise a safe and nutritious product. If we don't tell our story, I promise you there's people across the country that are going to tell a story that's different than our story, and we're not going to like what they say. So my challenge to each and every one of you here today is tell one person something positive about agriculture. And it becomes the power of one. It becomes an exponential effect. It becomes a growing effect that we tell people about the positives of agriculture. So the power of one is equal to the power of you. And that's my challenge to each and every one of you exhibitors. You hold my future in your hands as a beef producer. I hope you'll go out and tell the story of the beef industry. With that said, I'm going to go out and pick our champion female.
Your Supreme Champion heifer is entry number 504. WORRY79D Mistletoe, shown by Jarrett Worrell from Mason. Your Reserve Supreme Champion, entry number 182, RW Barbie 203D 0009, shown by Slade Beerwinkle from Earth. So I believe that will conclude your heifer show for the day. We'll have some premier breeders and premier exhibitors before too long, whenever they get it calculated, but let them pick the champion steer right now.
Well, Colby and I have really enjoyed sorting through these horned Hereford steers, and I know we have the polled set to look at here in a few minutes. To echo Jeremy's sentiments, you know, she was a mentor for me always growing up. She helped me get on the junior Hereford board. She helped me learn how to promote myself as a young individual. So, yeah, we've went a lot of miles and have lots of stories with one another, and she's definitely someone we admire. Colby and I do this every single day. Our kids show very competitively as well. And like he said earlier, we know the time and effort that it takes to get these cattle and these kids in this ring. And we don't take that lightly at all. I hope you guys all know that. We're still kind of nitpicking these top end to get right in our minds what we want to do here. Again, we commend you guys for what you're doing out here with these kids. And please remember what Jeremy said, because it is extremely important for us to tell the true and positive side of what and why we do what we do. I don't know if you guys know the kid named Tar Tut. He's a young man from Minnesota, but he shows cattle, and he is not raised in the cattle industry. His nurse was in agriculture, and she told him about the cattle industry, and now this is his passion, and this is what he loves. So it's amazing to me how just one ripple can start a tidal wave, or one spark can start a fire. So don't be afraid to find that kid and help them along in your county or wherever you're at, and just help them to get to this point. But we're going to go, I really don't want to talk these cattle again. I think we've done that enough. We're just going to go out and pick your champion in reserve.
Your champion orange steer, entry number 6, shown by Swayze Harlan from Wellman.